The United States is due to hit its debt ceiling today, and President Barack Obama has warned there'll be dire consequences for the US economy if an agreement to increase the federal debt level can't be reached. It's a key issue for our guest tonight, the US Deputy Secretary of the Treasury, Neal Wolin, who's on a fleeting visit to Australia. I spoke to him earlier this evening in Sydney. Secretary Neal Wolin, welcome to Late Line.
Good to be here.
If I could ask you first about your reaction to the arrest on sexual assault charges of the head of the IMF, Dominic Strauss-Kahn. Of course, he's been the very public face of this major international financial organisation.
Well, we'll have to see what the facts are in this circumstance. Obviously, we have a tremendous amount of confidence in the IMF's ability to do its mission, and we'll see how this other thing plays itself out. But what's important is the IMF play its important role in the global economy, and we are very confident that it's fully capable of doing just that.
Were you surprised?
Well, I think, we all saw the news over the last day, and again, we'll have to see how that develops.
Well, the Republican Ron Paul says the incident demonstrates why the IMF has problems. He says it should be a wake-up call for an inquiry to, quote, find out why we shouldn't be sacrificing more sovereignty to an organisation like that and an individual like he was. How much damage could this do to the IMF at exactly the time that it needs to be able to devote all its attention to issues such as the European debt crisis?
Well, again, Ali, I think the IMF's a big institution. It's one that we have a lot of confidence in performing the functions that it has. And I think that that's really the most important thing, is that it is capable of continuing its work, and we think that it absolutely can do that.
Well, if we can turn to issues closer to home for you, I guess this is something of a red letter day for the US. It's the day when federal debt is scheduled to hit its legal maximum of $14.3 trillion US dollars. Treasury says the country has got till August the 2nd until it's possible you'll begin defaulting. In reality, though, do you have that long? President Obama has issued some fairly dire warnings about what could happen with even a suggestion that you can't pay your debts.
Well, we've reached this debt limit from time to time over the past few decades, and so I think this is not uncharted territory for us. But as the President and Secretary Geithner have said, it is important for Congress to extend the debt limit to make sure that America honors the commitments that it's previously entered into. To not do that, I think, would be unthinkable and would really create real problems for the U.S. economy and our capacity to fund ourselves going forward. So we have confidence that the Congress will, as it always has in the past, increase the debt limit as it needs to do. And we think that they should do that sooner than later. And both the President Obama and Secretary of the Treasury Geithner have been very clear that that's the right approach.
When you say sooner rather than later, do you really have till August the 2nd?
Well, at some point the markets are going to get concerned. For the moment, they understand that this is a thing that happens periodically, and so we do think it's important before the markets start to react to make sure that we increase the debt limit. This is a circumstance that we've seen before. Congress has always raised the debt limit as necessary. We have confidence they will do it here, but we'd like not to wait till the last minute. We'd like them to do this sooner, not later. As
you say, it's happened before, but I guess this time it's bigger than ever before, and also in the past it's always been the last minute, hasn't it?
Well, Congress has always understood that in the United States we need to honor the commitments that we've made, and that we need to make sure that we have the capacity to raise the money to do that. I think they'll do that here, and just as they have in the past, and we just need to make sure that they do it as soon as possible.
Well, of course, the Republicans are calling for trillions of dollars in spending cuts in return for raising the debt ceiling. As well, they've ruled out any increase in taxes. What's making you confident? On what are you basing your confidence that there'll be a resolution?
Well, the United States will work through its intermediate and longer-term fiscal issues. The President and the Republicans in Congress have both said this is something that is critical to do. We understand that this is something we need to do. In the meantime, we do need to raise our debt limit because it really relates to commitments that the U.S. has made both under Democrats and Republicans, Congress and presidents past. And, there's always a certain amount of political activity around these moments where we reach the debt limit. We've always been clear that in the United States we make good on our fiscal commitments and we pay the things that we need to pay and that we are obligated to pay. And I think that's the basic thing that will happen here. In the end, Congress will raise the debt limit. I think it's interesting to note that even with the budget program that the Republicans in our House of Representatives have put forward, the debt limit would need to increase by $2 trillion over the next year. Everyone understands that needs to happen, and we believe that it will.
Given your confidence, is there an element of Chicken Little in what President Obama has had to say in the last 24 hours? He's talked about the catastrophic consequences for the financial system of the US and indeed global ramifications if the debt limit is not increased. I mean, is there an element of Chicken Little there for the benefit, I guess, of Congress?
I think it's not so much Chicken Little, but I think it is something that presidents and secretaries of the Treasury have said, both Democrats and Republicans, including President Obama and Secretary Geithner, to make sure that the Congress understands just what the implications of not increasing the debt limit would be. We want to make sure we're clear about all the issues related to the debt limit, including the consequences, so that everyone understands that the need is really there.
Well, if we can look at economic growth in the US, hiring has picked up, but not fast enough to bring down that unemployment rate that seems stuck around 9%. Has the recovery lost some momentum?
No, I don't think so. I think we're moving through a nice recovery. We've added jobs for 14 straight months. More than 2 million people have been added to our payrolls. I think that this is a recovery that has some headwinds that we're facing, obviously continued difficulties in our housing markets and so forth, but consumer spending is starting to pick up. Business investment is picking up. I think you see across various sectors of the U.S. economy, whether it's high tech or manufacturing or agriculture, quite a broad-based recovery that will continue, we think, to build. Private forecasts are for 3 to 4% growth in the United States over the next 2 years. We think that's a good number, and we think that we'll continue along that pace.
If I can move closer to our region, you were scheduled to visit Pakistan earlier this year, but that was cancelled after the arrest of the US citizen Raymond Davis. You're clearly involved in decision-making regarding assistance to Islamabad. What happens now, post-Bin Laden? Do you wind back the financial assistance?
No, we're providing assistance to Pakistan. It's a relationship that I think our President, our Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, have made clear is an important one for the United States. We have mutual objectives in the fight against global terrorism, and we will continue to stay engaged with the Pakistani government. And we have online a range of aid to the Pakistanis, both after their floods of this past year and in other regards, and I suspect that will continue.
Do you see relations as having been damaged?
Well, look, we have a complicated set of relations with the Pakistanis, but we are partners in the fight against terrorism, and we will continue to find ways to cooperate and to engage, and I don't think that will be in question.
In the past, you've urged Pakistan to raise taxes, clearly with one eye on their reliance on foreign aid. Are they too reliant on foreign aid?
Well, I think the Pakistani government itself has said very clearly that they would like to increase their revenues, and they have tried and will continue to try in a range of ways. And so that's an important objective that they've articulated for themselves, and we've tried to be of help to them as they seek to make sure that they have an adequate revenue stream to do the things that they want to do as a government.
Well, of course, in this region, China is the key player. Australia is very dependent on Chinese economic growth and the fortunes of the Chinese economy. What is your reading of where Beijing is heading?
Well, I think that bilaterally the U.S. and China have made important progress in our bilateral relationship. That's important for our respective economies, but also for the global economy because we're the two biggest economies in the world. The Chinese, I think, have begun to move from an economy that is export-led to one that pays more attention to domestic sources of growth, and we think that's an important element of making sure that